It's Wednesday, February 1. In the headlines, some of the new road traffic regulations to come into effect today. The lower house votes to extend zones of special operations. Regionally, new PAHO director sworn in. Internationally, India's High Commissioner to Jamaica speaks on G20 group. And in sports, Brianna Williams gives a scholarship to young athletes. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The phased implementation of the new Road Traffic Act 2018 and the Road Traffic Regulations 2022 is set to commence today, February 1. Minister of National Security, Dr. Horace Chang, says the legislation aims to better regulate and promote safe use of Jamaica's roadways. Carter Thomas Hewitt tells us more.
The new act is being supported by an enhanced digital traffic ticket management system that will make it easier for law enforcement officers to issue tickets for traffic offenses. 750 electronic traffic ticket system handheld devices and 750 printers have been procured. They are being distributed island-wide and are being used today. The Act provides for increased penalties for failing to obey traffic signals, loud noises within silent zones, failing to wear a protective helmet, and failing to stop at pedestrian crossings. It will also be an offense to use a handheld device while driving. The Act will also have an updated demerit system that enables the Island Traffic Authority to suspend a driver's license upon the accumulation of a specified number of demerit points. Thousands of motorists converged on the Corporate Area Traffic Court on Tuesday, January 31, as they attempted to settle outstanding traffic tickets. Tuesday was the final day for the reprieve on the payment of outstanding tickets.
I'm there from 5:30 this morning. I'm going to get you all now.
Did you get a ticket?
No, man. We are going to the line hour. We are work with it.
I come from St. Catherine side. I don't get the ticket. I don't know. We reach a downtown. We join a line. More people cut the line. I can chaka and it's go on. We need a little more time. We could go to the tax office. It's the same time we come here, so the government give it now. We go to the tax office, pay it off. Normal. This not ready. Chaos them something here. Chaos. I have all the elderly people. Right now I have something for me. When I'm elder them, if you do, and I can't get to do it. So I say I have to go mobile, go away. I have to go mobile for 500 ticket.
Unfortunately, many motorists did not get to see a judge. Instead, what they have is a printout of the traffic ticket stamped by the court administrator to prevent them from being arrested if they are stopped by the police. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Carla Thomas Hewitt.
Major Karen Burrell is the new executive director of the Financial Services Commission, FSC. Major Burrell was serving as the Chief Prudential Officer in the Financial Institutions Supervisory Division at the Bank of Jamaica. However, he is set to take up his new position today, Wednesday, February 1. The former FSC head, Mr. McFarling, resigned on January 19 after the organization was criticized over its handling of the multi-billion-dollar fraud scheme uncovered at the investment firm Stocks and Securities Limited. The current zones of special operations, ZOZOs, established in 7 communities are set to be extended. ZOZOs are in place in Mount Salem and Norwood, St. James, Savannah Lamar, Westmoreland, August Town and Greenwich Town, St. Andrew, and Parade Gardens and Denham Town in Kingston. While piloting the matter in the lower house on Tuesday, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang spoke of the positive outcomes of the ZOZOs.
Madam Speaker, you'll recall that the first ZOZO was declared in Mount Salem in September 2017. The zone is currently in the build phase. Denham Town is at the build phase of strategy with over $450 million invested to date. Given the advanced state development status of Denham Town zone, activities are largely aligned to completing activities towards sustainable development of the community. It has a few legacy activities that are outstanding, which remain the focus of the Special Intervention Committee. In August Town, significant work has been completed but there remains a list of planned projects to support the community that are of various stages of development. Some $200 million has been spent, and given the need for extensive infrastructure development in Augustown, a number of initiatives will be coming on stream to further support the build-out of the community. These include infrastructure improvement to rehabilitate and construct some 2.7 kilometers of roadway, enterprise development projects supporting over 25 micro-enterprise, solid waste management program, school rehabilitation of the Hope Valley Experimental and Augustown primary schools, and skills training.
The Senate will next debate the resolution on the extension. National Journalism Week is currently being observed between Sunday, January 29 and Saturday, February 4, 2023. In one of the commemorative activities to mark the relationship of the press with the public, the PAJ staged its face-to-face forum, Children, Sex and the Media. This took place on Monday, January 30 at the Pegasus Hotel in Kingston. Maya Chung reports.
Children, Sex and the Media, the first face-to-face forum staged by the Press Association of Jamaica as a part of its week of commemorative activities, drew a healthy audience of media practitioners, journalists, policymakers, and other relevant stakeholders to discuss the methods of the media's approach to disseminating information which contains any form of sexual content, especially where children are easily able to access it. Panelist Cordell Green, Executive Director of the Broadcasting Commission, spoke on the issues relating to social media, which, having joined quote-unquote traditional media, had broadened the dangers of transmission of any type of sexually flavored content, of children being affected by content too mature for their intellects and thus having problematic fallout. According to the Broadcasting Commission boss, the current scenario is quite a dangerous one for children as it relates to them being exposed to sexual content and being harmed in various ways. He said it is imperative that the nation protect its children and move to start the actions that are necessary to mitigate against children being badly affected by media that puts out sexual content of varying types.
Followed by an interview with the principal, who rubbished her version, essentially calling her a liar, and no doubt suggesting that she had brought the school into further disrepute. Now she may have exaggerated, but that was a child. We ought to have celebrated the fact that she responded and gave first aid. It turned out that this was a principal who was actually on radio challenging comments by a student whose voice, by the way, had not been disguised. And it didn't cause any public furor, but I heard it and was personally concerned about it. The child should have been protected, and certainly a principal ought not to have publicly criticized the child, particularly one who had responded in such a responsible way.
He said that matters like these have been bothering the Commission's watchdogs for years. He cited ongoing behavior of various mediums, indicating that local free-to-air TV needs to do better and digital literacy needed to be prioritized as a part of the new media landscape.
Much to our disappointment, there was a television station that sought fairly recently to interview the underage child of Vibes Cartel and felt it was important to make as part of the subject matter for entertainment consumption the fact that he was a baby father when he was below the age of consent. And the interesting thing is that the child said, "I do not wish to get into that conversation." The station ended the conversation and then went on to show a video with this child's performance in a pool with a scantily clad young woman with a Hennessy in his hand. Now, he's a child performer. I can't say anything about what his parents think about his maturity and how he maneuvers, but it was certainly inappropriate And the Broadcasting Commission found it in no uncertain terms a violation of the Children's Code for programming for a child to have been exposed in those circumstances.
Public Education Project Manager of the Office of the Children's Advocate, Latoya Minot Hall, represented the position of the OCA and had this to say.
Where traditional media is concerned from the vantage point of the Office of the Children's Advocate, we feel that traditional media still holds a very strong and a very vibrant place in society, and it should be protected and protected very aggressively. And the reason why we feel that way is simply because of the fact that there is still this element of education to a large extent still attached by and large to many of the local media houses that are practicing their craft. When you watch programs on Television Jamaica, or you watch it on CVM, or even those subsidiary companies, you will find that the content of what is going out is being monitored. I have had the privilege of working at TVJ, and sometimes when people unfairly say that, media reports information without scrutinizing the facts behind it, because I've had the experience of working in a newsroom for a number of years, now that I'm in government, I know that that is not necessarily so. Media is managed by a set of very responsible persons, I would love to say, who more often than not try to attempt to get the facts before dispersing it into the public space. But there are instances when some of those things fall through the crack. And I guess, I don't know if I should say it has to do with necessarily management at a particular point in time, but there are instances when we hold, especially the traditional media, to a certain standard and we become disappointed, as Cordell would have shared, based on some of the things that we would have put out in the public space because we want to entertain.
The week being observed under the theme of Free Press for a Better Jamaica began with a church service on Sunday, January 29 at Christ Church in Vineyard Town, St. Andrew, beginning at 9 a.m. For the news on PBCJ, I am Maya Chung.
Today marks the first day of Reggae Month, and Minister of Culture and Entertainment Olivia Babsy-Grange has announced that live events will be hosted across the country. Among the events is a tribute to Here I Come singer Dennis Brown. This will be in the form of a gathering at the National Heroes Park where he was interred. Popular saxophonist Dean Fraser will be featured. A night of music with a live performance from Lonely Won't Leave Me Alone artist Sanchez will be hosted on Thursday at the Ranny Williams Entertainment Center. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
ZOZO Financial Services Limited and Fostrich Limited have announced a partnership surrounding the financing of solar power systems and solar water heaters for the Jamaican market. This partnership will allow Fostrich customers to access up to 90% financing for their solar products. An announcement was also made that Fostrich is expected to execute a rights issue or additional public offering in short order to raise more equity capital to facilitate future growth. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, January 31, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.10. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $116.84. The pound sterling traded for $190.51, and the euro sold for $170.98. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 335 points. The junior market index advanced by 91 points. The combined market index advanced by 532 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 405 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 108 stocks, of which 50 advanced, 46 declined, and 12 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, Caribbean Cement Company Limited, and Caribbean Cream Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Variable Preference, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Berita Investments Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and Siboney Group Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 9 million units, Spurtree Spices Jamaica Limited with over 3 million units, and Regency Petroleum Company Limited with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund was the only active security posting a volume of 127 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, 0 securities traded. In regional business, in the Bahamas, the latest tourism stats show an uptick in tourist arrival last year, signaling what officials are calling a return to pre-pandemic numbers, with predictions of 2023 being a better year.
2022, another record-setting year for tourism as more than 7 million visitors came to the country. Tourism Minister Chasta Cooper thanking stakeholders for the collective effort, as the only other time the Bahamas has seen these numbers was back in 2019.
7 million passengers is really a marketplace for the expansion of the economy and for the empowerment of Bahamians. And that's how we hope to look at it.
Now the tourism minister confirming that most of those numbers are first-time visitors, and their hope is to get those persons to return to our shores.
We've increased our numbers and improved over 2019 in many of the major islands of the Bahamas, in Andros, in Cat Island, Eleuthera, Exuma. Grand Bahama and Abaco are trailing slightly. They're around 80% of pre-Dorian, pre-pandemic levels. So the reality of it is that our 16-island destination message is also working.
The lion's share of those visitors were cruise passengers, and Cooper says as the Nassau Cruise Port prepares for its grand opening in May, he hopes it is a driver for the redevelopment of Bay Street.
We spent a lot of time already speaking with the stakeholders. We have issued demolition orders for 9 of the buildings east of East Street. We are talking with the art community to see how we might be able to do some beautification works. We're spending significant sums for remedial work, like cleaning and beautification, but we need everybody to play their part.
In international business, on Tuesday, natural gas company ExxonMobil Corp posted over $50 billion in net profit for 2022. More on that from this Reuters report.
In a year when U.S. gasoline prices surged, ExxonMobil in 2022 took in an astronomical $56 billion in profit, setting not only a company record, but a historic high for the Western oil industry. That amounts to roughly $6.3 million an hour in profit last year. Exxon's results, which the company reported on Tuesday, blew past its prior record of $45.2 billion of profit in 2008. But that was back when oil hit $142 a barrel, 30% higher than last year's average price. Deep cost cuts during the health crisis helped supercharge Exxon's earnings last year, as did soaring demand for oil as economies reopened. Russia's invasion of Ukraine also contributed to price spikes. Exxon's results may set up another confrontation with the White House. President Joe Biden has repeatedly blasted oil firms for pouring cash into shareholder payouts rather than increasing production to lower prices at the pump. Exxon on Tuesday said spending on new oil and gas projects bounced back last year to $22.7 billion, up 37% from the prior year. It also boasted that its cash flow from operations soared to $76.8 billion in 2022, up from $48.1 billion a year earlier. Exxon's results come ahead of what are expected to be strong earnings from Shell on Thursday and from BP and Total Energies next week.
In market data for oil prices ticked up as the market is looking towards a meeting of OPEC and its allies, as well as a Federal Reserve rate decision. Brent crude futures rose 45 cents to $85.91 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 62 cents to $79.49 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, Dr. Jabos Barbosa was sworn in on Tuesday as the new director of the Pan American Health Organization. He replaces outgoing director Dr. Carissa Etienne. ABS's Sasha Dean reports.
Outgoing PAHO director Dr. Carissa Etienne thanked the organization for the support given to her during her tenure.
As the curtain closes on my tenure, I wish to again register my sincere gratitude to the member states of this renowned institution for having afforded me the honor and privilege to serve as PAHO's director, but also for their active support throughout the last 10 years. You have demonstrated that you indeed value your organization.
Dr. Etienne praised the new director for his work during the COVID-19 pandemic.
He is an exceptional technical and scientific leader with strong competencies in epidemiology, medicine, public health, attributes which were substantially and solidly displayed in his contributions to his country, to PAHO, WHO, and indeed global health.
Dr. Barbosa took the oath of office during the ceremony. While delivering his acceptance speech, he thanked everyone for their support.
I'm proud and excited to lead this organization. I'm grateful to our member states to have received the mission to be the next director of PAHO. I commit to serving PAHO to the best of my ability, guided by the knowledge and experience I have accumulated during my years working in public health.
Dr. Barbosa will assume the role of director of the Pan American Health Organization as of midnight on February 1. Sasha Dean for ABS News.
The largest operator of membership warehouse clubs in Central America, the Caribbean and Colombia, PriceSmart, has opened its first sustainable solutions plant in Trinidad and Tobago. We have more in this report.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has commended PriceSmart on the official opening of its first sustainable solutions plant. The Prime Minister, along with Trade and Industry Minister Paula Gopi-Schoon and Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries Kazim Hossain toured the facility at the Point Lisa's Business Park on Tuesday. The Prime Minister said PriceSmart's entry into this aspect of its business is brilliant. He said he always felt that if other people were producing what we are buying, then the opportunity should be there for us to produce items for other people to buy.
This plant in the private sector, in a company that's had its strength in distribution, in Trinidad and Tobago going into production, is as good an investment that we can expect to get. And we should understand that this is the kind of diversification that will come to Trinidad and Tobago, where diversification means doing whatever can be done outside of the oil and gas sector.
PriceSmart's eco-friendly plant will produce biodegradable food containers for its outlets throughout the Caribbean. The Prime Minister said we cannot in Trinidad and Tobago be talking about agriculture as a relief valve and an area of diversification that is easily available when we are competing with larger economies. He also noted that the investment has got encouragement from the government of Trinidad and Tobago, particularly as a way of reducing environmental pollution.
Because PriceSmart is not simply about distributing other people's items, but today laying a stake as a producer of items in Trinidad and Tobago that can find their way into markets outside of Trinidad and Tobago. And what better way to do it than to do it and get the benefit also of cleaning up the environment, not only our environment, but our CARICOM neighbors as well, which are our major market.
Barbados now has the full support of France in its fight against climate change. On Tuesday, both the French Minister and Prime Minister Mia Mottley spoke to the media about the two countries' new partnership.
This summit must be as inclusive as possible. all voices must be heard. Our partners from the G7 and G20 need to play a prominent role, particularly India and Japan, the current G20 and G7 presidencies, but also the USA, the EU, the African Union. And as we just discussed, dear Mia, Barbados will play a central role in this summit.
All of us have always been too small to do it alone. In addition to that, we recognize as well that the things that we've started to call for have started to happen. When we first settled the Bridgetown Agenda, we called for the Resilience and Sustainability Trust that the IMF has established. It is the first time that the International Monetary Fund has made long-term funding available to countries, and not on the basis of anything other than climate vulnerability. And why? It is seeking now to treat to the causes of the problem and not just the symptoms.
In international news, Jamaica's interests and those of other developing countries will be advanced as a result of India's presidency of the G20 group of countries. India's High Commissioner to Jamaica, His Excellency Rongsung Masakai, gave his undertaking from a speech of the President of the Republic of India at a celebratory event on January 26th at India House in Kingston, in observance of the 74th anniversary of the Republic of India. The Jamaica Information Service reported the president as saying that under India's leadership, he is sure that the G20 will be able to further enhance its efforts to build a more equitable and sustainable world order. Maya Chung has more.
Pointing out that G20 represented about 2/3 of the world's population and about 85% of the global gross domestic product, GDP, it was cited as an ideal forum to discuss and find solutions for global challenges. The president cited global warming and climate change as the most pressing matters facing the world. It was stated that poorer countries are bearing the brunt of the fallout. In addition, it was indicated that developing and popularizing alternative sources of energy is one of the solutions, and that India had taken a commendable lead in this direction by giving a policy push to solar energy and electric vehicles. In an interview with the JIS News, the High Commissioner said that India's G20 presidency will be shaped in consultation with not just its G20 partners, but also their fellow travelers in the global south, whose voices often go unheard. Meanwhile, Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Dr. Norman Dunn, who attended the event while lauding the cultural values of India, noted the country's generosity. In a JIS interview, Dr. Norman Dunn was full of praise for the Indian people, especially during the COVID pandemic, as he said they gave freely to the world. Dr. Dunn, who recently visited India, said the nation has made progress on the economic front. For the news on PBCJ, I am Maya Chung.
In sports, Jamaican sprinter Brianna Williams and her sponsor, Grace Kennedy, has gifted 3 Excelsior High School track and field athletes scholarships valued at a total of $210,000. Each of the 3 athletes received $70,000 to assist with school-related expenses for the academic year 2022-2023. On Monday, Williams presented the scholarships to Shakira Roden and Shelly-Ann Taylor. Kayla Emily Harris, who was also a member of that relay team, selflessly deferred her scholarship to teammate Janelia Williams. Jamaica's youngest Olympic female gold medalist was delighted to share the moment with the girls. She says last year they indicated that they were inspired by her at a developmental meet when they won their 4x100 meter relay. Williams never attended high school in Jamaica, but says she is committed to helping young student athletes on the island. And that's the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBC Jamaica. Thanks for watching.